This is Settlement Survival, a brand new early access simulation and strategy game that released on Steam on the 11th of October of 2021. Settlement Survival is similar to the likes of Banished, where you start in an unclaimed and dangerous world with a few settlers and a couple of key pieces of infrastructure. From there, as you can see, you can span out and build wonderful cities powered by electricity with technological developments along the way. But let's start at the beginning. And you do start at the very beginning, very humble beginnings. You can see here at the very early stages of a game, you are tasked with developing a settlement, right? You have to gather the basics: food, shelter, warmth, so on and so forth, and you do that in a variety of building mechanics that are, I dare say, fairly intuitive and fun to use. You can see here I'm placing some early fields to start cultivating some crops, and as I move through a little bit later into my game, I'm starting to build boarding houses and other unique things to develop a little growing settlement and empire. You'll find the city building elements of Settlement Survival very similar to, as I say, the likes of Banished, but also those of you who are interested in games like Tropico as well will find these mechanics to be very comfortable. You can see on the right hand side of the screen, each building or job has its own little things that I can tinker with. I can add or remove citizens, I can upgrade buildings, I can change what they're producing, and this stays the same whether you're producing food, raw materials, or upgrading those raw materials into secondary or tertiary goods like soaps, and so on and so forth. Settlement Survival is really about finding a home, shaping that home, building a settlement, and then, you guessed it, surviving. And the survival elements of the game don't start to come through until you've sunk a reasonable amount of time into it. And at first I was sort of a little bit put off by that because I went in expecting a hardcore survival colony game, but what I got was actually quite a lot more. It gave me time to play around with this, the technology tree. Indeed, there's maybe more of a development tree is a better way of putting it, but regardless, over time you earn development points and you can increase the rate at which you earn those by building buildings like schools and academies and so on and so forth, and those development points are used to unlock more buildings, more materials. You can see on the left-hand side, there's a whole load of categories, from agricultural developments to mining developments, right the way down to things like quality of life and education. Indeed, that's another whole element to Settlement Survival. It's that really citizen management element that comes beyond city building, right? So it's not just about placing farms and homes and providing jobs, but actually your citizens will start to get pretty titchy with you, and if their health plummets to the very low levels, you may even suffer a widespread outbreak. Indeed, this game gets hard fast, and throughout this review video you will see my settlement grow over time and you'll start to see some challenges come about. And now I want to talk about those, but first, on a slight tangential note, you can indeed live the very specific lives of your citizens in this game. Not only can you change their work, you can see their properties, how they're feeling, from warmth to hunger to satisfaction to hygiene, but also you can go into that very strange first-person view and live their lives. It's a little feature, but it matters. In a very early access game, it's nice to see fun little points of difference. Anyway, let's move back on to discussing those core gameplay mechanics, because as you start to develop, you will start to run into, I argue, around 4 really key ones. The first is resource limitations. One that I'm running into is stone, because I stupidly built stone paths before building homes. Don't do that. But anyway, resource limitations will be your first one. You will have to extract natural resources from around the map, and as you develop your technologies, you'll get better and better at doing that, more efficient over time, so you won't have to strip the entire environment bare. Indeed, there is a undertone throughout this game of sustainability. It's not really pushed heavily in your face, but you will see that logging camps and so on and so forth can favor a more sustainable approach unless you want to push them harder. I like that customization. You will have also noticed other customization features like seasonality throughout the game, but also day and night and weather cycles as well, just to add a little bit more nuance to those limiting factors that we're discussing. The first was resource extraction. The others are a little bit more complex. Up the top, you'll see a happiness and health indicators, right? So you have to keep your people happy and entertained in good quality housing as well, which leads you through into those health aspects. Things like clinics, training professionals through schools, developing a society that you would expect to keep your citizens both happy and healthy. And then the last one, of course, the big one, is the seasonality aspect. When winter cometh, you better be ready. You better have homes, you better have fuel stocked up, resources, food, so on and so forth, ready to go. Now, Settlement Survival does have some other features outside of that core colony sim strategy that I'd like to talk about a little bit here. It's really quite impressive how, particularly in the second game mode, more of a sandboxy mode where you don't need to worry about resources and you're more worried about constructing a beautiful empire, but either way across both of them, how you can engage with the landscape. You can carve your way through land, you can form rivers and lakes and use various tools to develop the landscape, and I love that a lot. As a city planner and a fan of games like City Skylines, it's great to see that customization coming through. Of course, as you expand your settlement, like I'm trying to do here, you'll get more citizens and jobs and buildings unlocked along the way, but you do also have that survival element to deal with, and it's not just a little bit of rainy weather or a harsh season, but also other disasters. We're talking widespread fires, environmental disasters. There are other things to consider, and indeed it mimics real life in quite an enjoyable, cartoony style, and I like that a lot. Beyond that, it's about building your unique empire, spreading out across the map. Trade ships will sail past from time to time as well, and I wonder if this mechanic will be extended on a little bit further as Settlement Survival moves through its early access development, but it's nice to see exchanging of goods through common currencies, a nice little feature that helps you feel like you're part of more of a living world. Indeed, the final thing I'd like to touch on is an historical element to the game. You can experience a unique game mode in Settlement Survival designed to challenge even the most experienced players, where you mimic real-life experiences like the bubonic plague from Europe. The Easter Island disaster is one that they talk about a lot on the Steam page too. It looks like a really interesting mechanic, a way to bring some historical realism, but also those elements of a lively map. Like I say, it's the trade, the historical moments, it's those little things, along with the development tree, that make it a really enjoyable game. Its performance is good enough, but not outstanding. I didn't have any issues running the game. I thought it performed totally fine. There are some little issues with the UI that I'd like to see improved across the board though, like prioritizing certain resource extractions over others, and I found the job mechanics and assigning jobs to citizens to be a little bit messy. There are other mechanics like that that I hope to see improved as the game moves through its early access cycle. Thank you very much for watching this early access review of Settlement Survival, and I'll see you next time.